Welcome. Last video, we talked about the Battle of Białystok-Minsk, a battle of encirclement where over 400 Soviet soldiers became victims to a fearsome German attack. As fighting raged in Białystok and Minsk, German soldiers of Army Group North were pushing northeast with their eyes set on Leningrad. As Soviet soldiers retreated from the German onslaught, General Fyodor Kuznetsov, commander of the Soviet Northwestern Front, was preparing a counterattack. His chosen location was a small city in modern-day Lithuania called Raseiniai. By June 22nd, the German forward troops have already crossed the Niemen River and set up forward positions opposing the Russian troops. Let's take a look at the numbers. On the German side, we have the 1st, 6th, and 8th Panzer divisions along with 2 motorized divisions. More than 5 infantry divisions also played a role in this battle. The German tank divisions were rather small, and each of them had no more than 100 tanks. This makes for a total of around 240 German tanks. On the Soviet side, the Soviet Northwestern Front had the 2nd, 23rd, and 28th tank divisions along with some infantry divisions. The Soviet tank divisions were much larger, and they had around 750 tanks, triple of the Germans. However, approximately 80% of these Soviet tanks were older light tanks like the BT-2 and T-26, and only a small percentage were the newer T-34 medium tanks and KV heavy tanks. Here is what the situation looked like on June 22nd. On the German western flank, we have the 1st Panzer Infantry Corps, composed of the 1st, 11th, and 21st Infantry Divisions. Their job was to push up the Soviet western flank and cover the attack of the Panzers. In the German center, we have the elite 1st Panzer Division. Then we have the 6th Panzer Division, with the 269th Infantry Division covering his rear. On the German right, we have the 8th Panzer Division, with the 290th Infantry Division covering his rear. The 3rd and 36th Motorized Infantry Divisions are slightly behind the front lines. On the Soviet left flank, we have the 90th Infantry Division. The 222nd Motorized Infantry Division was stationed to his right. The 125th Infantry Division is stationed to his right. On the Soviet right flank, we have the 48th Infantry Division and 5th Infantry Division. The 23rd and 28th Tank Divisions were stationed in the rear. The battle begins. On the left, the combined thrust of the 1st and 11th Infantry Divisions was too much for the 90th Infantry Division, and they were pushed back. The elite 1st Panzer Division, along with the 21st Infantry Division, pushed in and sent the Soviet 222nd on a full-scale retreat. The 1st Panzer Division kept pushing forward many kilometers into Soviet lines. The Soviet 28th Tank Division joins the fight and tries to counterattack the 21st Infantry, but they were beaten back with heavy casualties. The 36th Motorized Division followed the events of the 1st Panzer Division. The 125th Infantry was lucky. They were ordered to retreat and they were able to fall back to the right flank of the 222nd Motorized Division. They got themselves out of an early encirclement. The 6th Panzer Division moved towards the east, but this is when the Soviet 2nd Tank Division came from the east and counterattacked. This is where the majority of the Battle of Raseiniai took place. The Soviet 2nd Tank Division was very strong and had over 200 tanks. 30 of them were the KV heavy tanks. In comparison, all 3 Panzer groups combined again only had 240 tanks. This counterattack was quite a shock and created a gap in the German lines. The 1st Panzer Division was forced to send some of its forces south to help the 6th Panzer Division. At around the same time, the 290th and 8th Panzer Divisions crashed into the 48th Infantry and pushed it back. A part of the 8th Panzer Division moved all the way to the relatively unprotected rear of the Soviet 2nd Tank Division. Looking at the situation in hindsight, the 2nd Soviet Tank Division probably should have stopped their counterattack and pulled back. Even if they did break through the 6th Panzer Division's line, they would still run into other German troops, not to mention the wave after wave of German aircraft strafing them. But due to reasons like poor communication and Stalin's insistence on launching counterattacks, the 2nd Tank Division continued forward. Some Soviet tanks that managed to break through roamed around west of Raseiniai for days. On the right flank, the 3rd Motorized Division and the 30th Infantry Division crashed onto the Soviet 5th Infantry Division. The 3rd Motorized Division was able to push in much further thanks to its superior mobility. The 23rd Soviet Tank Division was too far in the rear to contribute to this fight, but managed to cover some distance to the front lines. And that's it for June 23rd. The Germans were able to make good progress, but the Soviets managed to hold the line for now. The Russian counterattack was a shock, but due to the lack of air support and coordination with other Soviet units, this counterattack will only serve as a delaying operation. Every battle comes with many great stories, and the Battle of Raseiniai does not disappoint. This battle was the first time German panzer troops, or any German troops for that matter, came into contact with the Russian T-34 medium tank and the KV heavy tank. According to one account, a single KV-2, which is the variant with a monstrous 152mm howitzer, managed to hold up the entire 6th Panzer Division for a whole day. Here's how the story goes. On the morning of June 24th, a lone KV-2 tank was spotted at a crossroads outside Raseiniai. Unfortunately for the Germans, this KV was in the middle of a supply line and had to be gotten rid of. It had already destroyed 12 trucks from a German convoy. The Germans first brought up 4 50mm anti-tank guns, but all of their armor-piercing shells simply bounced off the KV's armor. All 4 guns were spotted and destroyed by the KV. Then they tried to use a 105mm howitzer on the KV, but couldn't hit it from a safe distance. Then they tried to use an 88mm anti-aircraft gun on the KV, but the KV tank's crew spotted the 88 and took them out first. The day turned into night and the KV still remained. Some German sappers tried to sneak up on the KV at night and plant explosives on it, but they were spotted by the crew and scattered with machine gun fire. The explosives did go off, but they only managed to destroy the KV's tracks. The next day, the Germans distracted the KV with their own tanks and managed to fire on the rear of the KV with another 88mm gun. The 88mm gun managed to penetrate the KV, but only 2 rounds penetrated from a total of 8 rounds that hit. Oh, and a quick note, the Germans found this 88mm anti-aircraft gun to be very effective against Soviet tanks, which is why they put this gun on the Tiger I. German soldiers then went to inspect the KV, but the crew inside the KV was still alive somehow and fired at them with machine gun. A German soldier managed to toss a grenade inside the KV through a hole that their 88mm gun had made, and that finally took out the tank. The Germans then buried the crew of this lone KV tank with full military honors. Back to the battle. On June 24th, the 11th and 1st Infantry Divisions continued to push against the 90th Infantry Division. At the same time, the 21st Infantry Division pushes back the 28th Soviet Tank Division. The 23rd Tank Division finally arrives and attacks the 1st Infantry Division, but the 1st manages to hold the line and drive back the counterattack. The elite 1st Panzer Division managed to find a gap in the Soviet line and push northward around the Soviet 2nd Tank Division. The 11th Soviet Infantry Division from the north joins the fight and crashes onto the extended column of the 1st Panzer Division. The 36th Motorized Division follows the 1st Panzer Division and covers his advance. At this point, the 6th Panzer Division has managed to stabilize his front lines and wipe out the majority of Soviet forces that pushed through during the counterattack. But thanks to the lone KV, they were halted from performing any major actions. The 8th Panzer Division has already pushed all the way to the Soviet rear. It is moving on from this battlefield because the Soviet Tank Division is pretty much doomed at this point. The 269th and 290th Infantry Divisions pushes against the Soviet 2nd Tank Division and 48th Infantry Division, forcing them into a precarious position. Down at the bottom, the 3rd Motorized and 30th Infantry Divisions annihilated the Soviet 5th Division. The 30th Infantry Division moved off the map, while the 3rd Motorized Division followed the 8th Panzer Division. That's it for June 24th. Let's do an analysis. Do you guys see how important motorized divisions are in this warfare? The elite 1st Panzer Division broke through the enemy lines and using its superior mobility manages to travel all the way to the northeast, while the 8th Panzer Division went up the southern flank and threatened the entire existence of the Soviet Tank Division with one giant encirclement. This is what Blitzkrieg is all about, by using 2 tank divisions as spearheads to break through enemy lines and create a pocket to encircle enemy forces. This is similar to what happened in the Battle of Białystok-Minsk, but on a much more tactical scale. The day is now June 25th. The Red Army is on full retreat mode after realizing their counterattack attempts have completely failed. On the far left, the 23rd Tank Division begins retreating. The Soviet 28th Tank Division attacks the 1st Infantry Division again with no success. The other Soviet divisions begin a fighting retreat as the German troops pushed further on. The 3rd Motorized and 8th Panzer Divisions have already left the scene of the battle and pushed further northeast. The 36th Motorized Division comes forward and stretches itself to cover the northern flank of the 1st Panzer Division, as the 1st Panzer Division swings around and makes a full-on attack on the Soviet 2nd Tank Division. The 6th Panzer Division and the 269th and 290th Infantry Divisions do the same. The 2nd Tank Division at this point has lost a huge portion of its tanks and soldiers and soon to be completely snuffed out. The Soviet 48th Infantry is also pretty much disintegrated. And that is where I am going to put a stop to this battle. At this point, the fight is already over. The Soviet 2nd Tank Division was encircled and eventually liquidated, and its commander, Yegor Soyankin, killed. The Soviet 23rd and 28th Tank Divisions on the left managed to retreat without being encircled, but they each lost more than 50% of their tanks. They continued their retreat through Estonia, and by August 1941, they have lost so much of their material that they were disbanded. The Soviet infantry divisions that participated in this battle continued their fighting retreat. Some of them were able to retreat all the way back to Leningrad, while others were battered to a point of non-existence. The Germans did not keep track of their losses in this battle, but it was less than 75 tanks and significantly lower infantry losses. One major reason the Germans were much more successful in their attacks is because they had complete air superiority for this entire battle. When the Soviet tank divisions counterattacked, not a single Soviet aircraft came to support them. Soviet tanks were easy targets for German aircraft, and even the KV heavy tank was no exception. The battle in the air is now more important than ever, but the Soviet Air Force wouldn't be able to compete against the Luftwaffe for the first month of Operation Barbarossa. That's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed seeing a battle play out on a tactical level. Stay tuned for more.